want to say hello to my friends in Japan that are working for Samaritan's Purse. And so, man, it's good to be with you via video, and I do consider it a privilege to be able to have shared with you a little bit over the course of time. Just know that you're in my thoughts and you're in my prayers as you come to mind, and I'm praying that a couple things I'm praying for you. One is that you'll be able to transition well and close down the things that God wants to kind of button up there, that you'll be able to close and to transition well. And the second thing is that you would be able to survive your final days with Ron Keegan. I mean, I try to get this guy as far away from me as I can in Japan, and now it seems like you may be giving him back. I don't know what's happening with that. Obviously kidding, because Ron is a good friend of mine. I hope you've enjoyed his company and his energy and his passion and his love that he has. Well, I wanted to share just a little bit on that whole thing of love. You know, I talked to Ron, and I talked to some different people who have worked with Samaritan's Purse or who have worked in different ministries, and I hear them say things like, man, I just love doing this. You know, I love helping people. I love when this happens. I love seeing God do this. I love the adventure of a new culture. I love a challenge. And so all I want to ask you today is what do you love? What do you love? Now, I know the church answer to that. I know the ministry answer to that. But I'm not asking that. I'm asking this, really, for you, if you are honest with yourself. What is it that you love? You know, I think what happens a lot of times as we're in transition, and especially as we begin to shut down a part of our life, what comes to the surface are the things that we really love. Because you, I think, in these final days will be saying, man, I'm really going to miss these Japanese friends that I've made. I'm really going to miss the people that we had coming in, and we got to work with them. I'm going to really miss the challenge. But you know, one thing that I'm going to miss is this, and those things begin to come to the surface, and you'll find, wow, these really are the things that I love. And some of you may be saying, I don't know where my next assignment is or this next chapter of life is going to be for me. And in all of that, you're asking yourself, what is it that I love? What is it that I want to do? So could I just ask you that question? What is it that you love? Jesus interacted with one of his disciples who was going through a huge transition and a point where he wasn't really sure in what to do. And we find in one of my favorite interactions in the Bible between Jesus and Peter. And Jesus begins to drill down on this whole love thing to his disciple Peter. So we pick up this story in John chapter 21. It's John chapter 21, and we're going to start at verse 15. John 21:15. Let me catch you up to what's happened so far. Jesus has been born, obviously. He's lived 33 years on the earth. He's done 3 years of public ministry. He was betrayed. He was tried. He was crucified. He was shoved in a grave. He rose from the dead, and he has reappeared to his disciples. This is actually the third time that Jesus has interacted with his disciples. And what we find is that there were 2 interactions, and then Peter decides he's going to go fishing. He's a fisherman by trade, and so he decides, I'm going to go fishing, or I'm going to go back to fishing, but this is what I'm going to do. And so while he's out fishing, Jesus shows up on the shore, and I could preach like 20 sermons from this great passage, but Jesus shows up on the shore, and he tells them, throw your nets out to this side, and they bring in this huge pile of fish, and then Peter realizes it's Jesus. He comes to the shore, and as he gets to the shore, he finds that Jesus is making breakfast. And then we drop into this interaction that happens between Jesus and between Peter. And I think Peter might have been in this crisis point of wondering even to himself, what is it that I love? What is it that I really want to do with my life? What is it that I'm really passionate about? Because Jesus had appeared to him, but Peter goes and he fishes, and then he has this interaction with Jesus. And I think Jesus, knowing the heart and the mind of Peter, talks to Peter about something very, very specific and very timely. John chapter 21, starting at verse 15. When they had finished eating, that's when Jesus and the disciples, in particular Simon Peter, when they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me more than these? Now let's stop there for a minute. That's an interesting question. Because Jesus says, do you love me more than these? Okay, what does that mean? What's Jesus asking? Do you love me more than what? What are the these that's in the passage? Jesus says to Peter, do you love me more than these? What is these? Well, these could mean different things. Jesus could be asking this. Peter, do you love me more than these disciples love me? Peter, do you love me more than these? Do you love me? Is your love for me higher than the love of the other people that are around? That's a possibility. Jesus also could have been asking him, Peter, do you love me more than you love these disciples? Is your love for me higher than the love that the other disciples have for me? And the third thing that he could be asking me is, or could have been asking Peter is this. Peter, do you love me more than these fish? Now, that's at first glance seems a little preposterous for Jesus to say, do you love me more than you love these fish? But you have to get this. Peter is in this time. He's in this little bit of crisis mode. I think about what he loves. Because Jesus had told him a long time ago, you'll be fishers of men. And Peter decides to go back and be a fisher of fish. And so Peter, who had denied Christ, gets asked this question. Do you love me more than you love these fish? Do you love me more than you love fishing? Do you love me more than you love this industry? Do you love me more than you love anything else? And I think to apply it to ourselves, maybe the Father could be asking us, do you love me more than you love ministry? What if you never worked for Samaritan's Purse again in your life? If it is the thing that you love, you'd probably be devastated. What if you never saw any of your Samaritan's Purse friends again? Would you be totally devastated? Would it hurt? Yeah, it's going to hurt, but do you love them more than you love Christ? So the story goes on. He gets asked, do you love me more than these? And Simon Peter says, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And Jesus said, then feed my lambs. See, he gives him an assignment. If you love me, then feed my lambs. And again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me? Kind of saying like, I know the Christian answer, Simon Peter. I know the church answer, but do you truly love me? He answered, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And Jesus said, then take care of my sheep. If you love me, here's my assignment. And the third time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And Peter was hurt, it says. Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, do you love me? Peter was hurt because I think he was in conflict. He really did love Jesus, but yet he had gone and shown a love for fishing more than he showed a love for Jesus. And he said, Lord, you know all things, and you know that I love you. The basis of our life has to be love for the Father. Everything else springs out of love for the Father. And if you walk out of your assignment in Japan from Samaritan's Purse, and it devastates your life because you're no longer there, then maybe, as difficult as this is to hear, maybe you loved it more than you loved the Father. And he never asked us to love our secular profession more than he did to love him. And he never asked us to love our ministry more than we are to love him. And sometimes we get those things out of order. There's this guy that interacts with Jesus in Matthew chapter 22, and he says, what's the greatest commandment of the law? What is it that you want, Jesus? What do you want more than anything else? And Jesus says in Matthew 22:37, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. It's the first and greatest command. The second one is to love your neighbor as yourself. Don't get those flip-flopped. Jesus said the first and greatest command is to love him. Everything flows out of love for the Father. Are you going to hurt when you go back home? Yep. Is it going to be bittersweet? Absolutely. You're going to see your family and be reunited with friends, and is it going to be great? It absolutely is. Is it going to hurt to tear away from the fabric that you've been building into in Japan? You know that it is. You know that it is. But don't allow yourself to love it more than you love the Father. The basis of our life as followers of Christ is to love the one who gave himself for us, who paid the ultimate sacrifice for us. It's the basis for all that we are. That's why Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 13, and now these three remain, faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. The greatest thing that you can do today is to love the Father. The most important work that you do today might be to take some time and say, God, I just want to tell you how much I love you. I know that I'm going to show you by my actions. I know that I'm going to show you by closing these books or selling this or moving this or transitioning this. But I just want to tell you that I love you. And your love is the basis of my life. And because of that, I'm going to say that I love you, and then I'm going to get my assignment from you. And I will not love my assignment. I will not love my past life. I will not love the things that you're assigning me to more than I love you. It's something that we all know, right? But we just forget that the greatest of these is love. So my friends, finish well, finish strong. Represent the kingdom with great clarity, but more than anything else, represent the kingdom as you close out your time there. Represent the kingdom as people who more than anything else are in love with the Father.